to talk to you about the gang stalking phenomena and who is behind it and what it's about. This gang stalking phenomena around the world is run by Jewish people. It's a large Jewish network. The Jews mastermind and direct it. They use Gentiles, a lot of non-Jewish people, to engage in it on a day-to-day, boots on the ground kind of situations. It's based on telepathy, and most of the gang stalkers involved are telepathic, highly telepathic, natural telepathy, which has been around mankind since mankind's been in existence. Jews have been using telepathy that we know of since at least the time of the Maccabees, and that was in Israel around 2,300 years ago, and that was before the Christian era. So Jews have been using telepathy on a tactical basis for millennia. And telepathy is everything. Without telepathy, I don't think there'd really be gang stalking as we know it. They can, the Jews, by the way, use individuals, they use groups, they use any organized group they can have access to, and they also, a lot of these security companies within the United States, Canada, Australia, Western Europe, Iceland, they're owned by Israeli companies or Jewish people, and they're all in the arm of the program. So, and also most airports have a Jewish security involvement. So it's basically a worldwide Jewish network that is directing this gang stalking phenomena. That's why it exists throughout the world. And wherever there's not many expert gang stalkers, the Jews can bring them in and do work for them on somebody. The basic method is they use telepaths to read people. They'll have the target go to, be involved in different situations, and they telepathically read their emotions and what they're thinking after there's like an incident or someone says something to them. And that's part of the profiling, and it's also part of the daily harassment, is just putting people in a street theater type situation or workplace mobbing or something that also gives the telepaths, a mechanism to gauge the targeted individual's reaction given a certain stimulus, whatever the stimulus might be. There's no technology needed for this. Gang stalking is a completely natural phenomena. There's no devices, there's no EEG mapping of a brain and then using that on a computer to send and receive messages from someone's brain. None of that. That's all diversion to keep all the targets and interested parties away from understanding the phenomena. And basically, telepathy has become, since the 80s, it's become an industry. You have the United States and other Western powers, and including Russia and China, and other countries use telepathy for what they call remote viewing, which is to see people and places at a distant time and possibly in the past, perceived past or perceived future. And also remote influencing, which is heavily used in gang stalking. Remote influencing, which you can look up again on Google and YouTube and learn a lot about by videos and documentation, is where they use telepathy. The high telepathic gang stalkers use telepathy to influence people and situations around the targeted individual, and that's what leads to a lot of targeted individuals having people, strangers they're standing next to in public, discussing their thoughts. That's a product of remote influencing. And that's very important. So it's important for all targeted individuals to learn about remote influencing. And another way for remote influencing to be highly effective for the gang stalkers is by programming the targeted individual when they're sleeping. That's very effective, and on some people especially. And the targeted individual will be asleep, and the gang stalkers, they usually work in a team, especially at night. They'll have several of them. They'll usually have at least one that's very highly telepathic, that's supposed to monitor the targeted individual's brain. And they like to be as close to the target as possible if they can, because your brain isn't as sending out strong signal and from a distance. And the closer they are, the more effective they can be on injecting a thought into your dreams, and so they'll try to influence people and program them at their sleep. And gang stalking is based on a very old Jewish tactics for dealing with individuals throughout millennia. I mean, throughout history, the Jews have used what we call gang stalking to silence criticism, to get rid of opposition, whatever it may be. And the boycotting, which became a term in the late 1800s in Ireland, is based on the Jewish gang stalking tactics. And also the term schizophrenia, which is what many targeted individuals are diagnosed as, especially that receive the V2K, voice to skull. That came about in England in the 1800s, also in the UK, and that's, in the United Kingdom, that's when a lot of the gang stalking tactics started to surface, because the Jews were very influential and very powerful within the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom in the 1800s even had Jewish prime minister, and that's like the president. And so in order the Jews used the United Kingdom to project their power throughout the world, and kind of set up and to increase the power of their diaspora, they call it, the spreading of Jews throughout the world. And so the United Kingdom was heavily used by the Jewish network to consolidate power. It's like a soft power. Jews don't always want to be out in the forefront if they can help it. They want to be behind the scenes and influence people telepathically. They want to, do all kinds of use dirty tactics to influence people in a soft manner without any real tangible evidence. And that's kind of how the Jewish power is. It's mostly soft power. And telepathy is the mechanism they've been using for millennia to obtain this soft power and influence. Jews also have their teams attack people in their sleep. If the Jews have difficulty getting a hold of a person, sabotaging a person or influencing a person, or blackmailing them, etc., during the daytime, waking hours, well, then they attack them at night. And that's where a lot of targeted individuals receive their their burns at night and their marks at night, and different phenomena is by these expert gang stalking gangs that attack people at night. These are special gangs, and they're not run-of-the-mill gang stalkers. These are very special people with unique set of skills, highly telepathic, and they're usually very small. They're very fluid. They're very flexible, and they're good at getting through doors quietly without evidence, disabling security without any evidence of disabling the security. They're very good at getting through windows without any evidence. And if they can't get to you through windows or doors, if there's any opening at all, just a quarter inch, what they'll do, they'll take an approximately quarter-inch extendable snake, controllable snake, like a roto-rooter, like a plumber would use to put down pipes to unplug a leaked drainage system. And this extendable snake that's about a quarter-inch diameter has on the end of it, it can have claws, clampable claws that it can hold things. It has I've seen a white light on the end of one. I've seen infrared on the end of them. I've seen and also they can spray chemicals, and that's where a lot of people will say they receive like certain burns at a certain part of their body, but not the whole body. Well, it's not radio frequency. It's not microwave burns. It's these nighttime gang stalking experts that spray people with a spray at night, and that's very common. That's usually when they can't really get to you very well during the daytime. Now, there's many objectives with gang stalking. Basically it's to get rid of people that are considered undesirable by the Jews, mostly. That would be political activists, someone they perceive in the way. That would be people perceived as enemies to Jews, people that question the hoax, what known as the Holocaust, Jewish Holocaust, or people that are considered anti-Semitic, which tells you who's run the program. Because if they're just trying to go after you just because you have a certain belief about something, well, that tells you a lot. And there's also local agendas that can cause a problem. Maybe someone has a business disagreement with some Jews, and then they use gang stalking to maintain their international Jewish power base. And that's really what gang stalking is about. I mean, they got a lot of people, and they could just pick people at random just to keep their gang stalkers kind of in practice if there's not some need to go after someone seriously in a given area. And I think that's why they may pick a lot of women because women would be much easier to scare, easier to control, and they wouldn't require much effort, and there'd be very little risk. And the people that the Jews really want to go after, usually highly educated, motivated, dynamic, go-getters, well, those are the people that they really got to spend their time and money on going after. And that's where they'd spend the money on sending teams to different places to harass those people at night. And just because there may be a certain amount of people targeted doesn't mean that they're necessarily trying to get rid of everybody. Because some gang stalking targeted individuals have jobs and normal lives, but they just have minor problems from gang stalking. But there are other people that are just heavily gang stalked to the nth degree and can't live anything near a normal life. So that's what it's about. Gang stalking is about maintaining Jewish international supremacy, and it takes a while to understand gang stalking. Gang stalking is a very specialized area, and it requires a lot of time to understand it and to understand the techniques the gang stalkers use. But if you're a real targeted individual, you have to understand this. You have to understand telepathy. You have to study remote viewing and remote influencing. You have to become an expert at that stuff to understand gang stalking. And it might be good to understand some things like the astral plane, which a lot of New Age people talk about. And because they say that astral plane is where the psychic powers seem to reside at. And there's also a lot of confluence or intersection between the telepaths and things like astral traveling, things like astral traveling and meditation, or a near-death experience, NDE, or aliens visiting people when they're sleeping, alien abduction. That's another related area that's related to gang stalking. There's a lot to this, and but anyway, this is good for a person to understand for the moment. Thank you.